Welcome back from lunch, everybody. I hope your bellies are full. You're not hungry because now we're going to be talking a lot about food. So I think it's good that this came after lunch and not before lunch because I wouldn't want to talk too much about that on an empty stomach. Super exciting to be diving into food tech now. We'll be having, like previously, a keynote and then a panel on the topic. We'll be starting with a keynote from Gregor Tegel. He's the CEO of Archeon Biotechnologies. And unlike what it says up there, we've kind of changed the theme a little bit. Greg will be talking about the founder's perspective in the food space, some of the challenges that he faced, but also some of the opportunities that he sees. What are the trends? What are the outlook? And why is it the right time to invest? A bit of a pitch for the food tech space, which will, I guess, be challenged in the panel afterwards. So please give him a warm welcome. Welcome, Greg. Thank you.
That's working. Yeah, it's working now. I'm really glad to be here. Thanks for having me for this food tech session. I actually want to tell you a little bit about the founder's perspective. So I'm the CEO and co-founder of Archeon Biotech, where we work in a fermentation technology that converts carbon dioxide into food ingredients. So a very new way of producing food and food ingredients in the space. And I want to show you and tell you the story how we perceive, and I personally perceive, the last years in food and food tech, and why I'm convinced that this is the right time to invest in food tech as well. It's not only a sales pitch for food tech, but it's my honest opinion. With that, I want to start with this very 3-line graph, but it actually is a story behind that. Because I still remember it was roughly 15 years ago, and it was a Christmas dinner with my parents, my grandparents, and myself on the table. A table full of amazing food. And I just remember the perception of all the different generations towards this table. My grandparents were just worried about all this amazing food, who's gonna eat that, what are we doing with the rest? We're gonna throw it away and it's a waste of food. My parents were like, this is the way we're living. So, we just have this food availability. And I was in my early 20s studying food technology. And I was just going down the rabbit hole on how we're producing food on this planet. And I just thought, oh my God, that's not healthy for our bodies. That's not healthy for the planetary. So I was just in this existential nightmare scenario. And I feel why I'm saying that is because exactly that's what this graph shows, this remarkable development of the global food production system after the World Wars. The post-World War decades yielded in a food production system that was outperforming the growth of the global population. And we were producing this overabundance of food with just using a fraction of agricultural land more than we did before, just 15%. And I think it's a remarkable story of food production and of innovation that happened back then, when we could really show, and with the urge of fertilizers and so on, we could actually make an acre of arable land more efficient for us to grow our foods. So that's kind of remarkable in my opinion. And I think with every remarkable development, there are some side effects accompanied with it. And I don't want to talk too much about everything that's wrong with the food system today. But ultimately, there have been side effects. Besides having an incredible food security and prosperity as a side effect on that, we also burdened our planet and also our personal public health with the system. And why I'm convinced that it's the right time to invest in food and food tech is two major reasons. We are at a point in time where we can fully qualify and quantify the side effects of our industrialized food production system. So we know which effect it has. And on the second part, we have all the technologies ready that allow us to also circumvent and make this a more sustainable practice in general, our food system. And what I'm very excited about, you see here 3 terms, is on the one hand, digital, so automation and AI, which is causing a disruption in the field of food tech, but also ag tech especially. So now I have a lot of founder friends in the space in the US and globally that are working on AI for weed and pest management and automation. There are companies I know that are working on ag fintech, so they allow farmers to switch to region farming or to organic farming and finding alternative financing opportunities for this transition, because it's a scary thing for a farmer to do that. And then there are technologies like involving biotechnology and synthetic biology, where we all of a sudden make use and can produce things that are hard to produce using agriculture by new technologies like fermentation. So we have examples here in Austria having companies that convert, like with precision fermentation, simple sugar into food proteins like milk proteins. And then there's my company Archeon that is doing that from carbon dioxide, so directly converting carbon dioxide into protein ingredients for food applications. So we can ultimately give agriculture also a break having this new disruptive developments. But I think one thing that we forgot, especially when we started Archeon 4 years ago and I saw the space, everyone was excited about food tech investments. There was cultivated meat, we can grow it in a bioreactor, we can grow meat in a bioreactor, we can produce all the food proteins, we can have plant-based steaks. But what we forgot is that we need the entire value chain to grow with us. So imagine you are a plant-based steak company, and you just rely on a resilient supply chain for a plant protein that you need to integrate in your product. If you don't have a resilient supply chain, you're gonna face issues growing and scaling your business. And that has exactly been the issue the food industry and the food tech industry was going through. And I think what we can learn from, and why now I think it's the right time to invest in food tech, is that those learnings already happened. So the food industry, and we all know what we need to grow our businesses better, and I think a lot of investors know as well. And we saw these developments in the EV industry. So the EV industry also started with innovating on batteries, this and that. But what really happened, and when it got a disruptive technology that on scale, is when there was raw material procurement figured out as much as on the other side EV charging infrastructure. And once that all happened with the help of public and private funding, and that's quite important, having this regulatory pulse, then the technology started kicking off. And what we're seeing here as an example is that the alternative protein sector, and I should say broader, the food tech sector, is just in this phase where we had this realization and understand that public funding, and it just needs to be a concerted action between public funding and private funding. And it's kicking off. We see it with a lot of governmental incentives in the US especially, as well as in Europe, it's kicking off. And we see that these gaps that we're still having in our value chain in food systems to close. So, and that's why I think it's very exciting. And to give you the last slide, it's a compiled study, like it's a compilation of studies compiled by Synthesis Capital, one of the leading food tech VCs globally with a 300 million fund. And they found this S-curve adaptation that you often see in disruptive developments, where you start with a lag phase, where you know technology is ready to scale, but you have the infrastructure and entire value chain not yet being fully established. So you're always lagging behind. You see all these bumps that we also saw in the food tech industry in the last 5 years, or let's say 3 years especially. But then you hit a tipping point where you see a faster than expected growth. And that tipping point is forecasted now by many different studies being 2027 to 2028, where we see exactly those pieces coming together that I was referring to. And that's exactly where I'm on the other side of the pond as a founder, but that's why I'm convinced that now investing in food tech is the right time, actually capitalizing on the sector's growth trajectory. With the last word to be said, I think food tech is also climate tech and is also health tech. And I think that's the exciting part that got me into this space in the end of the day, because we can couple financial growth together with planetary health and public health. A lot of developments that are currently happening will aid our diets because we will produce things more sustainable. That's aiding planetary health. On the other hand, it will also aid the nutritional value of our foods. So we see that already, even with the plant-based alternatives that are maybe not as good and tasty at the moment, they are much healthier than the meat than the meat parts at the moment already in time. Yeah, with that, I'm excited to be part of this panel and looking forward to some interesting conversations. Thank you.